Hello. Welcome back from after the holidays. I went down to Dallas to enjoy Thanksgiving dinner with my youngest granddaughter, Kaya, and her significant other, and his parents, and their roomie, and had a great time. She developed into one heck of a fine cook. Wow. It was bittersweet going back to Dallas and not seeing Doug. But I did get to run into Steve. Steve and I got together for a while. And we must talk for an hour and 15 minutes. And then my schedule prevailed and we had to break it up, but it was great seeing him again. We spent many an hour discussing high philosophy. Seriously, when I was down there. This isn't going to be real long because it is following up on a best of, which I'm hoping a bunch of you saw when it first came out, but that was 4 years ago, maybe not. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll start going through the commentary that was left, the comments that were left, and then I'm going to go a little NSFW at the very end. So, here we go. Okay, here's my dear friend. Can't say how much I love the opening monologue. Thanks. Are there any major house rules you remember from back in the day or used today when playing D&D that you enjoy and think should have made it into the rule book? Not really, because involved as I was with the supplements, which, in theory rounded out for original D&D. If I really felt strongly about something, I usually got it worked into a supplement. That's where psionics came from. So no, there aren't a lot of unrequited longings. Sorry, can't tell you that. I don't know of any. Because nowadays when I play in the wheel, I play the way I want, the hell I want. In fact, when I was down in Texas for Thanksgiving, one of my granddaughter's friends came over. She was a aspiring DM and had been playing a little, and we must have spoken for an hour. She got a free 1-hour tutorial on how to be a DM, how to know if you're doing it right, how to deal with certain circumstances that might or might not pop up. She got a hell of a deal, and I was glad to do it because she was my granddaughter's friend. Now, I can't think of anything that I wanted to use that didn't make it into the rules. I don't recall Gary having any, and it would have had to have been vetted by him anyway. Nice episode, Tim, as always. By the way, in my working with Don Samora, in some hobby industry items, we both talk so highly of Jesus and have respect for you and all you've done. By the way, Original Squad Leader is still my favorite game of all time. And while I have played Advanced Squad Leader, John Hill and Squad Leader will always be my favorite board game, and John one of the best game designers of all time. He was a great guy, and his loss in 2015 was far too soon in this world. I agree. I didn't really get to know John until a couple of years before he died. We ran into each other at a Texas or a convention in, might have been St. Louis. And we ended up sitting out on a park bench in between a couple of wings of the building and just shooting the breeze for a very, very long time, and I found it most enjoyable. I believe that, John had a thing. He hated Advanced Squad Leader. He said it ruined his game. how much of that is actual or how much of that is the designer saying you shouldn't have messed with my game without me, I don't know. But knowing John for being the purist that he was, I imagine I imagine some of his complaints are true. He would never acknowledge that. Now, he's got a set of miniatures rules for the Civil War called Johnny Reb that is one of the best I've ever seen anywhere. And Lord, that must be 30 years old now. And it's still one of the best I've ever seen for that period of time. John was a very, very talented designer, which is why he ended up going to work for the government and doing shit he couldn't tell us about until he quit working for the government. So, talent's talent, and it's shown through. I'm guessing Jim is responsible for giving something to check out on the holiday weekend. If so, thank you, Jim. Yes, he is. I had just told him, I'm going to be out of town. Oh, and he responded, you're very welcome. I told Jim, I'm going to be out of town. I'm not going to be here on Thursday on my regular recording night. So just put in a thing saying no episode next week. And then he came back and said, well, how about can I do another? I said, sure, okay, great. Something for everybody to watch. So I'm glad he did. I love what he does. I trust him so completely that I don't even have him run anything past me before he does it. That's the respect that I hold him in. Okay, happy Thanksgiving, Tim. I stumbled across something that piqued my curiosity. In Swords and Spells, there are 4 asterisks next to the spell Raise Dead, but there isn't a footnote to explain it. I can't find anything in the text. If you would be so kind, what is the missing information? Well, I'm working on that. I have a friend, more than an acquaintance, that is the expert on all things O and First. And I've not been able to get a hold of him. I imagine he might be off to the holidays too. If anybody knows, he will. Are you sure about Swords and Spells? What book specifically are you speaking of? Because I looked up that spell in the first book, and there were no asterisks. It was the first printing. I had a friend look it up for me, and there were no. So I'm interested in this also. I will continue to pursue it, and I hope that my friend gets back to me soon. And because it had 4 asterisks means that there were probably the 4th one on the page that needed some special explanation. Not like it's 4 stars important. Taking inspiration from your Wheel of Blame to discuss improvisation. In your Wheel of Blame you have, please correct me if I'm wrong, set up a game environment with established parameters, being that the players find their characters magicked away to a pocket universe, are challenged with finding enough magical tokens to pay for everyone's departure from this realm. You play especially through a series of discrete situations you create based upon prompts given to you by the players before the game begins. Within these constraints, you have unhindered creative freedom. Yes? No? Absolutely yes. Absolutely. One of my favorite tropes is miniature things. 2-foot bugbears, 3-foot owlbears, and just hordes of them. And maybe not in an antagonistic situation, but yeah, I have no limits on what I want to do. I do limit what players can bring with them on, and what they can write in their prompts. Unfortunately, we've had to rule out nuclear weapons recently. A story in itself, and other things. but that's limits on the players. I can do whatever I want, and I often do. Now, I don't break the rules. I don't hose the players in doing, putting them in somewhere. I like to pose a problem where you can just as easily talk, finagle, cheat, defraud your way through it as having to kill your way through it. I think I enjoy it more, and I believe it's better for the players to kind of refresh themselves on what role-playing is supposed to be about, and the gathering information and thinking. Not only just thinking outside the box, refusing to acknowledge the existence of the box. And I think I know I am better for it. And guys from Okinawa love it so much, and we're going on number 13 here. Or no, we did 13 already. So it's a different approach, but I think it's one that works. All right, let's see. What is your central goal in improvising a situation in Wheel of Blame based on the props? Is there always a kernel that's always the same? For example, players needing to defeat X in order to gain a token that you then build the situation around, or do you have a more whimsical approach? Oh, hell. It all depends on the prompts, which determines the shape of the encounter, and they're all different. It's never the same. The prompts, let's see, I have some from a recent game here, and I'll tell you what I did, if I can remember what I did with these prompts. As okay. Oh yeah. Here was one. A candle and a mysterious ring. So that was the prompt. They ended up in a place that was filled with candles all over the place, in the walls and sconces and everything. And I don't even believe that the ring was a ring like on your finger, but a ring of candles or something. Anyway, I just used the prompts for a basis to run with. Another one, the rope and the frying pan. In this one, I had they went indoors, and they were confronted with every high schooler's nightmare, and that's the big rope we had to climb in the gym. And so they've got this giant rope, big rope, big around, hanging down out of the sky. And they got to get up there. And I think I had a giant metal frying pan swinging back and forth, trying to knock them off every once in a while. And so they had to figure out how to time it, almost like a video game. Let's see. Then somebody gave me, as a prompt, gypsy wagon, iron chest. So I had them encounter a troop of Romani, about 14 wagons strong, all of which had an iron chest in them. And they're all running around looking for this token, trying to break into 14 different iron, strong boxes in the gypsies' wagons. And that involved a lot of skullduggery and sneaking around. And as I recall, they didn't have to draw weapons. There was the box, the emerald and an eye. So they went to Oz, except it was Oz with the Eye of Saruman, which is now green instead. And it was sweeping over people and doing weird stuff. So they went to Emerald City. I'm sure the guy that wrote this meant, like a big gem. Nope. Let's see. There were some others, but they're not here. There was, anyway, that's what the Wheel of Blame is. Just, let's make up some silly stuff that requires you to do things. I mean, there's monsters to defeat and bad guys to snuff and all that kind of stuff. But it's easier if you can finesse your way through, because once somebody finds that token, whoop, it all stops. And the party is wished on to the next encounter. So, not everything is resolved. Not everything has to be resolved. But there's puzzles and there's riddles and things like that that I throw at them. Everybody's heard of, well, I've told the story a couple of times about the player that stripped naked and covered himself with juice out of flowers so that the butterflies would carry him over the wall, which they did. And, okay, that's what it's, let's have some fun. We don't have to be grim and somber and looking for the next thing to kill every time. Let's have some fun. Let's have some laughs. My central goal is to have fun, to give them a puzzle. Sometimes they'll have to hack their way through, just because I think that's what the players want. And sometimes they'll think their ways around it, or blunder or bumble their ways around. That's fine with me. My whole goal is for those other 7 people to be laughing frequently. And if they are, I feel real good about it. How flexible and responsive to player interpretation and misinterpretation do you like to be as far as tailoring the situation of a given challenge is concerned? Well, let's see. I try to, I certainly don't want to repeat anything in the same adventure. But again, like I said, I have a weakness for miniature things. 2 foot tall this, 3 foot tall that, and a lot of them. I have a weakness for bakeries and food manufacturing plants that they run across that are being operated either by slaves or I once ran one where they thought that the elves were being enslaved, and no, they were the Keebler elves, and they turned around and they kicked the party's ass. They didn't want to be taken out. They went at it, entirely wrong. So I want to instill in the players that they look at a situation from every angle they can come up with before they make an act. And these games move along. We'll have 7 encounters in the space of 3.5, 4 hours. Averages about 30 minutes an encounter, roughly. So it's not a slow, stodgy game. It's not for the weak of heart. And I never correct them. If they misinterpret something, I just sit there. I never correct them. I didn't tell them that. I don't know where they got that idea from. They took some things I said and ran with it in the entirely wrong direction. I'm not going to tell them. They'll learn when it doesn't work, or they get hurt. Is there much of a difference between your improvisational style and Wheel of Blame games compared to your library games? Okay, if you're saying library games, printed adventures, I follow the printed adventure. What used to drive my partners crazy at Eldridge was the fact that I left too much stuff open for interpretation for the person buying the module to run with it on their own, and I kept having to put in more prompts and hints and whatever, which I find vaguely disquieting. The sense of raw discovery when we were first playing the game, finding books to steal ideas from, getting new ideas anywhere we could, etc., has been lost, because now everything's laid out in a book in front of you. And I mourn that passing. And and I won't go any further than that because then I'll get into additions, and I don't need to do that right now. Okay, it's getting distinct a lot like Christmas down here at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Humidity is often 100% in my neck of the bush. Hope you have a wonderful seasonal holiday time. Jesus Christ, it'll be better than yours because I won't have anything like that humidity. Wow. No, thank you. No, thank you. All right, that's all the comments that were left. And now I'm going to get into some other stuff. Number one, I don't know how many of you share my enjoyment of good historical fiction. You know, contradiction in terms, historical fiction. But I ran across an author named Dan Jones. I actually found his one of his books in an Ollie's discount store, and it follows a group of English mercenaries that from the beginning of the 100 Years' War, and they go to Calais and they through France and everything. And it spans quite a long period of time before the third book is over. And I found it really, really well written, very well researched. I could find no flaws in the research or anything like that. And then I found out that my library had the second and third volume, so I checked them out through them and read them, and it was a delightful series. Dan Jones, Essex, like the county in England, Essex Dogs. And in keeping with the period of time, many of the independently captained bands that would sign on as a band to go fight for a noble somewhere acquired nicknames and sobriquets over the years. And so that's not out of place either. Now, I don't know who named this game. This is the worst name for a game I have ever seen. The game is delightful and simple and a lot of fun to play. Now, I found it online. The first time I bought one, I got it for $7.50. And the second one I got for $5 because it was on sale. And yes, some of the pieces are flimsy plastic. You don't really need them. The game board itself is a molded, injected piece that's sturdy enough. And it involves stretching rubber bands across posts to form triangles and then clamming them. Now this is the name of the game. Puzzle Geometry Chess. I'll bet if you act quick, you can probably get one by Christmas. It's a delightful game. My wife and I enjoyed playing it, and my 10 and 9-year-old great-grandchildren enjoyed playing it and took to it right away. Up to 4 people can play at a time, so it definitely qualifies as a family game, and I highly recommend it. Yeah, and like I said, some of the pieces are really flimsy. Doesn't matter. Get 4 little bitty Ziplocs, put all the pieces that separate the colors, put them all in little Ziplocs, and don't worry about the flimsy racks. Because one of the things of the game is you can play a big game where, I think everybody has 17 markers. You can play a short game where everybody just has 10. The more players, the wilder the scoring. So, highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Now, let's get to the not suitable for work portion tonight. And it's going to deal with Flying. Once again, my bugaboo. If I ain't in the front of the plane, I don't want to be anywhere. Okay, I've ridden coach. This recent trip, unlike when we fly to Florida, we're not flying Allegiant airline to the third world. This time we flew American, and the flight down was fine. And we had a couple of weather, wind thing delays in our return flight, and it wasn't nothing you could do about it, and nothing abnormal just happened. So we got in like an hour and a half later than we had planned. So that's not anything to do with that. Let's talk about the plane inhabitants. What does it take to qualify to get a dog named a service dog? I thought there were classes in that they had to go and show that they wouldn't bite strangers and all that. Do they sell counterfeit patches to sew in the dog's vests? My God, we're on a 737 and there were 7 service dogs on there. Now, there was one that was so damn big it was going to take up the whole floor in front of all 3 seats, but that one was apparently on another flight and I didn't see it. But geez, old Pete's, what do you need a service dog for? I understand that they have some legitimate uses, especially with people that are neurodivergent. But I got the impression that most of these were just somebody went and took the classes so they could get the patch to put on so they could take their precious puppies with. My God. None of them misbehaved, but they're all over the damn airplane. All right. Now, reclining seats. Granted, they don't recline very far. But when they do, they take about 3 to 3.5 inches of your forehead space. And you can't get it back. Reclining your seat doesn't do you any good for that. So, we're talking about the space over the tray where you want to eat or read or whatever. Well, that's bad enough. But then, when they recline back and don't use the recline position, what the fuck is going on? I say, if we're going to back and coach, nobody seats recline. None. Just tough shit. Guy in front of me, first thing he does, before we went off the ground, zoop, back goes his seat. I lose 3.5 inches of my headspace in front of my seat, and he took about a 20-minute nap, and then didn't use it the rest of the time, and didn't put the goddamn thing back up. Wanted to smack him in the back of the head. All right. How about bringing food on board the aircraft? That little metal tube that we're all enclosed in, and we all get to share the delightful or not so delightful aromas of whatever the hell it was you brought in and opened up your Tupperware, and now you're eating this stuff that's making people around you, their eyes water. Pretty soon it permeates the entire craft. And it could be a Jimmy John's. Okay, I once rode on a plane. 2 people came in with Jimmy John's, cracked them open. They were both highly aromatic, and we all vicariously enjoyed their Jimmy John's. Come on, what is this? We all have to sit there and smell whatever stinky cabbage shit you got in that tub, slurping down? No. And here we go for the topper. If your ass and thighs are so big that they come over on my side of the armrest and rub with my thighs, because I'm not big anymore, not nearly as big as I used to be, then you need 2 seats. Because I'm not anywhere near the divider of the seat, and you're this far over rubbing up against me. No. If you're that big, I don't care what the cause is, whether you just can't stop eating cake or you have a neurological thing going on. It's an impingement on my privacy and my space when you're so big that you spread out and basically literally go underneath the armrest over to the other seat. Bullshit. If we're gonna, well, they used to measure your bags to make sure that your carry-ons are right. And carry-ons, Jesus God, there's people with a carry-on and a, quote, personal item. They could pack enough shit for a 5-day camping trip. Are you kidding me? 8-day camping trip. They don't enforce that shit anymore. They've had to make bigger bins because apparently they've decided they can't enforce it anymore. I don't even see those things in most of the airports anymore, where your bag's got to fit in to qualify. What's up with that? Flying is not nearly as much fun as it used to be in coach. Now, flying in business, first class, that's still pretty nice. But my God, as we all know, it's expensive. Oh, I guess I've ran out of rant. Give me some comments. Give me something to talk about. Otherwise, I'll just sit here and sound like an auctioneer for 20 or 30 minutes. I don't think any of us would like that. My lips would get tired. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. We're looking forward to the upcoming holidays, whether it's Hanukkah or Christmas. And keep the spirit, baby. Dodata Gobi. Hello, and welcome to my cellar.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Last man around when the rates went down. Called it Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell. Brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard's brain. ESR and fantasy, collection of micro armory. Titan with tramp under a tree, high as could be. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Curmudgeon.